I'm Adrian Seet, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Malay rulers urge leaders to stop inciting people with racial, religious issues. Also, researchers discover new Alzheimer drug to slow down cognitive decline. Thanks for joining us. Tuanku Mukhris Tuanku Munawir has decreed that leaders should stop using issues of race and religion to incite the people against one another. The Negeri Sembilan Yang di-Pertuan Besar said he wants the new federal government to instill the spirit of togetherness amongst Malaysians of various religions, racial and cultural backgrounds. Tuanku Mukhris, in a statement released by the keeper of the ruler's seal, Tan Sri Syed Daniel Syed Ahmad, after chairing the 260th Conference of Rulers at Istana Negara on Wednesday, urged the new government to use any opportunity to its best to bring the country to greater heights. He also called on Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim as well as the Menteri Besar and Chief Ministers to assume their duties based on the principles outlined in the Rukun Negara. The ruler said the spirit and values of the principles of Rukun Negara should be the practice and belief of Malaysians and not merely writings in reading materials. His Majesty also suggested that the Rukun Negara pledge recitation should continue and be led in appropriate ceremonies by appointed leaders and no longer by youths. Tuanku Mukhris also congratulated the Prime Minister and the newly sworn-in Pahang, Perak and Perlis Menteri Besars on their appointments following the GE15. The second day of the Conference of Rulers meeting was also attended by Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riyatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah. In another development, Tuanku Mukhris had proposed for the removal of the Prime Minister's power to select 5 members of the Judicial Appointments Commission, JAC, a panel which proposes prospective Superior Court judges. This is to ensure the JAC is independent in carrying out its responsibilities. Instead, His Majesty said the authority to appoint the JAC members should be made by other institutions, such as the Malaysian Bar, Sabah Law Society, Advocates Association of Sarawak and Parliamentary Select Committee. The JAC comprises of 9 members, namely 4 top judicial administrators led by the Chief Justice, as well as a senior federal court judge, and 4 other eminent persons who are appointed by the Prime Minister. The Negeri Sembilan Yang di-Pertuan Besar added that currently the judicial appointment process in Malaysia has weaknesses that can be resolved. The ruler also suggested that the structure of the committee be re-evaluated through negotiations carried out between the government, existing JAC members, legal bodies and other relevant stakeholders. Sabah BN Chairman Datuk Sri Bung Mokhtar Radin paid a courtesy call to Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim at his office in Putrajaya on Wednesday. He is the latest political leader to visit the Prime Minister after he was appointed to the post on Thursday. In a Facebook post, Datuk Sri Bung said that the discussion during the meeting was focused on current issues as well as Sabah's development. He also said that Sabah BN is confident that the new Prime Minister can successfully develop the country. Also present at the meeting were former Sabah Chief Minister and Usukan State Assemblyman Datuk Sri Saleh Said Kerouak and State UMNO Secretary Datuk Jafri Arifin. Apart from Pakatan Harapan, Datuk Sri Anwar's unity government includes BN, Gabungan Rakyat Sabah GRS and Gabungan Parti Sarawak GPS. The Malaysian Meteorological Department, MetMalaysia, has forecast heavy rain to hit several areas nationwide from Thursday until Monday. Its Director General Muhammad Helmi Abdullah said this is due to the strong easterly winds coming from the Western Pacific region. In a statement on Wednesday, Helmi said a low-pressure weather system is expected to form over the South China Sea on December the 2nd. He also said that the system is forecast to move west across the Malaysia-Thailand border into the Andaman Sea from December the 3rd until the 4th, which can also intensify into rain. He added that huge waves and strong winds are also expected to hit the coast and Kelantan and Terengganu waters, which is dangerous for any beach and sea activity. MetMalaysia has also issued a continuous rain warning involving eastern Sabah, the east coast, and the northern peninsula from December the 1st until the 4th. In light of this situation, the department has advised the people in the affected areas to be cautious and to be prepared for any eventuality. Meanwhile, Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL has urged road users to be careful following flash floods at several roads in the city centre on Wednesday. In a Twitter post, DBKL's Command and Control Centre shared pictures of the roads affected by the flash floods at Jalan Parlimen, Jalan Bangsa and Jalan Maharaja Lela, as well as the Sultan Iskandar Highway from Istana Negara to Wisma Tani. The pictures from the closed-circuit television CCTV were taken at about 4:20 p.m. DBKL had also dispatched traffic wardens and rescue teams to assist in dispersal and rerouting of traffic following the flash floods. A source from DBKL said that some 25 personnel were dispatched to help divert traffic. City Police also confirmed that several main roads in the capital were flooded following heavy rain for about an hour since 3 p.m. However, the water on the affected roads have started to recede at 5 p.m. and can now be used by all vehicles. The acquisition of 2 multi-role support ships, MRSS, which is expected in 2024, needs to be expedited without further interruptions. Joint Forces Commander, Lieutenant General Dato Yazid Arshad, said there was a need to procure the ships urgently to conduct more effective operations, considering the fact that the existing assets were almost 40 years old.
Ini adalah sealiran dengan aspirasi TLDM dalam 1525 untuk memperkasakan lagi aset-aset TLDM. Kalau menurut saya lah, pendapat peribadi saya adalah afdal sekiranya 2 di sebelah Malaysia Timur, 2 di sebelah Malaysia Barat, dan ini amat efektif dalam aspek autograf.
Dato Yazid said this to the media after the ceremony to send off KD Mahawangsa to Lebanon to resupply assets and personnel to the Malaysian battalion Malbat 850-10. He also said the Navy hopes that the government will continue to work on improving the assets of the Malaysian Armed Forces MAF in order to safeguard the country's maritime territories. This, as the MRRS is not only important to the Navy but also to the MAF and the country. In September of 2021, Dato Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, who was the Defence Minister at the time, outlined several matters on the acquisition of new assets for the MAF. Amongst them were the government would procure 2 MRSS ships for the Navy expected to commence in 2024. This is to meet the MAF's operational needs through the enhancement of its strategic sea lift capabilities between Peninsular Malaysia and Sabah and Sarawak. Pakatan Harapan PH is ready to hold talks with Barisan Nasional BN on the possibility of working together in the Selangor state election next year. Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Amiruddin Shari, who is also Selangor PH chairman, said his coalition was not adverse to discussions with BN to continue the same cooperation attained at the federal level, which paved the way to the formation of a stable unity government. According to Datuk Sri Amiruddin, despite Selangor being politically stable, PH is still open to discussion for cooperation for the upcoming state election. He added, although PH is ready to contest on its own, the coalition might win more seats in the polls if it can form a political pact with other parties. On another note, Dato Sri Amiruddin said any changes to the state's Legislative Assembly opposition leader would not matter, as there are only 6 months left until the current term ends. The position is currently held by Sungai Aitawa Assemblyman Dato Rizam Ismail of BN, which is now a partner of PH in the federal government. The state election must be held within 60 days right after the current Selangor State Legislative Assembly's term ends, which is on June 26 of next year. Media Prima Berhad has received recognition for good environmental, social and governance (ESG) practices. The Malaysia's biggest media conglomerate was awarded silver under the telco and media sector equities category at the Edge ESG Awards 2022. Group Chairman Datuk Sri Dr. Hussein Al-Junid, in a statement on Wednesday, said the company was honoured to be recognised by its peers for good ESG practices. He added, as Malaysia's leading and largest media group, the company strives to be a responsible corporate citizen and uphold the best standards to deliver long-term value to its stakeholders. Meanwhile, Group Managing Director Rafiq Razali said Media Prima plays a vital role in the nation's social fabric and must set a benchmark in ensuring strong ESG standards across its businesses. The recognition from the Edge ESG Awards is Media Prima's second award for good ESG practices. The group was recently given the Industry Excellence Award for Corporate Governance Disclosure at the MSWG ASEAN Corporate Governance Award 2021. Petroleum National Berhad Petronas delivered a robust performance in the first 9 months of 2022, with the net profit surging to 77.2 billion ringgit from 35.1 billion ringgit a year ago. The group revenue also soared to 271.3 billion ringgit from 171.4 billion ringgit in the corresponding period of last year, mainly due to favourable price impact for major products aligned with higher benchmark prices. Petronas, in a statement on Wednesday, said its earnings before interests, taxes, depreciation and amortization (EBITDA) stood at 130.2 billion ringgit, while cash flows from operating activities (CFFO) increased to 83.1 billion ringgit. Petronas's total assets also strengthened to 725.6 billion ringgit as at September 30th this year, from 635 billion ringgit as at December 31st of 2021. The group's capital investments stood at 27.4 billion ringgit, an increase of 34% compared to the same period last year. For the third quarter, ended September 30th, 2022, the group recorded higher revenue of 99.2 billion ringgit from 61.8 billion ringgit in the same quarter of last year. This is due to favourable price impact for major products and favourable impact of the exchange rate. Petronas President and Group Chief Executive Officer Datuk Tengku Muhammad Taufik said Petronas will continue to focus on delivering safe performance to maximise its cash generators and grow the business portfolio. He added that the group remains fully determined to strengthen its resilience and seize new opportunities. Former PM censured over secret ministry posts. Details when we return.
Government stood up faced the risk of uncertainty.
Researchers have hailed the dawn of a new era of Alzheimer's therapies after a clinical trial confirmed that the drug managed to slow cognitive decline in patients with early stages of the disease. The results come after decades of failure in the field and have encouraged experts to say that Alzheimer's, which affects 30 million people worldwide, could be treatable. The drug lecanemab, developed by firms Biogen and Eisai Limited, is an antibody therapy that removes clumps of protein called beta amyloid, which builds up in the brains of people with Alzheimer's.
The clinical trial results showed that lecanemab slowed the progression of disease, and we believe this provides hope to patients, caregivers, and physicians, stimulates further research into Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative diseases, and provides evidence that it is possible to treat these devastating conditions.
Experts, however, warned that improvements are comparatively small and the treatment could have serious side effects. Preliminary data from a trial of lecanemab was released in September and found it slowed cognitive decline by 27% across an 18-month period. The complete trial data published in the New England Journal of Medicine fleshes out those findings, but also raises concern about the incidence of adverse effects, including brain bleeds and swelling. The data is already being assessed by regulators in the US, who will soon decide whether lecanemab can be approved for wider use. Former Chinese President Jiang Zemin, who led the country for a decade of rapid economic growth after the Tiananmen crackdown in 1989, died on Wednesday at the age of 96. In a statement, the major bodies of China's ruling Communist Party said Jiang died in his home city of Shanghai just after noon of leukemia and multiple organ failure. Jiang took power in the aftermath of the Tiananmen Square crackdown and led the world's most populous nation towards its emergence as a powerhouse on the global stage. His death comes at a tumultuous time in China, where authorities are grappling with rare widespread street protests amongst residents fed up with heavy-handed COVID-19 curbs nearly 3 years into the pandemic. In other news, Australia's Parliament on Wednesday voted to censure former Liberal Prime Minister Scott Morrison after an inquiry found his secret appointment to multiple ministries during the COVID-19 pandemic undermined trust in government. The historic motion brought by the ruling Labour Party passed by 86 votes to 50 in the country's lower house. It marks the first time a former Prime Minister has been censured by Parliament, although the motion is symbolic in nature. In August, it emerged that Morrison had become Joint Minister for Health, Finance, Treasury, Home Affairs and Resources in the 2 years before he lost power in May. However, he has defended appointing himself to several ministries, calling the censure retribution by opponents. Morrison added that his decisions were lawful and that the decision was necessary in case ministers became incapacitated during the pandemic. Over in Pakistan, 3 people were killed while 30 others were wounded after a Taliban suicide bomber rammed a police escort in Buletin district on Wednesday. Officials said the patrol had been guarding a polio vaccination team when the bomber crashed his vehicle into the police truck before detonating explosives, forcing the truck to plunge into a ravine. Amongst those killed were a policeman, a woman and a 4-year-old child. 20 policemen were amongst the wounded. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, also known as the Pakistani Taliban, have issued a statement claiming responsibility for the deadly attack. The attack was carried out after the announcement to end ceasefire and was planned to take revenge for the death of Omar Khalid Khorasan.
Maafkan Abah Hina.
Sports football, the 2022 World Cup. Argentina will be looking to leapfrog Poland to the top of Group C and qualify for the last 16 when they do battle on Thursday. The two-time world champions currently sit level on 3 points with Saudi Arabia, just 1 point behind Poland at the summit heading into their final group fixture. 4 days on from their shock 1-2 defeat against Saudi Arabia, Argentina boosted their hopes of reaching the knockout rounds courtesy of a crucial 2-0 victory against Mexico. Argentina will finish at the summit of Group C and qualify for the knockout rounds if they secure all 3 points against Poland. And if Saudi Arabia fail to meet Mexico by a larger margin than Scaloni's side. A draw, meanwhile, could be enough for them to progress in second place if Saudi Arabia fails to win. In Group D, to make it out of the group stage for the first time in their World Cup history, Tunisia must defeat a France team that has already secured qualification to the round of 16 and then pray for luck to go their way. If Australia beat Denmark in that other game, even a Tunisian win will not help the North African side survive. But if Australia draw their match with Denmark, then a Tunisian win would be enough for them to qualify. And if Tunisia and Denmark both win their matches, they will be level on points, and qualification will depend on goal difference. France heads into this match, having scored 6 goals in 2 games and only need a draw to guarantee the top spot in the group. In Group B, England march into the last 16 as group winners after Marcus Rashford's double and a Phil Foden strike justified their first starts of the tournament in a 3-0 hammering of an outclassed Wales. Rashford fired a free kick past Danny Ward, following Ethan Ampadu's foul on Foden after 15 minutes, with the Manchester City midfielder then marking his return to England's team moments later by turning in Harry Kane's cross at the far post. Wales were demoralised and outclassed as they knew they were on their way home from Qatar, and Rashford added his second in the 68th minute with a large slice of help from Wales's keeper Ward, who allowed a fierce shot to slip through his legs. With the win, England top Group B with 7 points, 2 points ahead of the United States, who set up a last 16 meeting with the Netherlands by beating Iran 1-0 in their grudge match, while Wales finished bottom of the table with a point. Political activists under probe for GE15 F-Beef post. This and more after this short break. Motorists using the Damansara Shah Alam Elevated Expressway, or DASH, will have to start paying toll charges from Thursday. DASH said tolls will be charged at 3 toll plazas, namely the Denai Alam Toll Plaza, RRIM Toll Plaza in Kuasa Damansara, and Kota Damansara Toll Plaza. The toll rate for cars will be RM2.30, while lorries and trailers will be charged RM4.60 and RM6.90 respectively. The toll rate for taxis will be RM1.20, while RM2.30 for buses. The toll collection will be fully electronic, using touch-and-go card, smart tag and RFID. DASH, which opened on October 13th, is one of the 6 highways operated by Project Lintasan Kota Holding Sdn Bhd, Prolintas, the largest highway operator in the Klang Valley. Previously, the government announced that motorists could use the 20.1-kilometre highway for free for 48 days from October 14th until November 30th. Political activist Badrul Hisham Shaharin, better known as Cikgu Bard, is being investigated for a Facebook post he made during the 15th general election campaign. Mersing District Police Chief Superintendent Cyril Edward Nuing said police opened an investigation against the Solidarity Anak Muda Malaysia founder after receiving a report.
Pada 17 hari bulan 11 2022, pihak kami telah menerima laporan polis berkenaan satu posting dalam Facebook yang dibuat oleh satu penama Cikgu Bard original. Ekoran daripada laporan polis yang dibuat, pihak polis telah menjalankan siasatan.
The investigation was conducted under the Elections Act and the Communications and Multimedia Act. Cikgu Bard was also summoned to the Criminal Investigation Department of the Mersing Police Headquarters on Wednesday to give his statement. On Tuesday, Cikgu Bard, in his Facebook post, claimed that police had opened an investigation paper against him in connection with his allegations regarding gold and sand mining and other matters in Mersing, which was giving a negative impact on residents in the district. Shenzhou 15 aircraft lifted off from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center with 3 Chinese astronauts to make its first in-orbit crew handover. It will be the second permanently in uninhabited space outpost after the NASA-led International Space Station, from which China was excluded in 2011. Visuals of the liftoff wraps up this edition of Nightline. I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.